ready?
Ready.
Let's go. So the first book I brought is by Jun'ichirō Tanizaki. It's called In Praise of Shadows. It's like a philosophical work about Japanese architecture and its use of darkness and dimness and shadow and the way that it embraces that rather than prioritizing light and light alone as usually Western architecture will. I think he is a really evocative writer about space and can make you feel like you're there. Yeah, this book gave me a new appreciation for Japanese architectural history. I really enjoyed it. The next book I brought is Ransom by David Malouf. It's a beautiful lyrical retelling of the story of Achilles from Greek mythology. I think this book really humanizes the Iliad for modern readers. It turns the character of Achilles into someone who's so believable and present. The third book I brought is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's my favorite poem of all time. It's also my favorite poem from the Middle Ages. It follows Sir Gawain as he makes a strange and mystical pact with some kind of entity. I love the seasonal descriptions, like the descriptions of seasonal weather in the United Kingdom that appear throughout this text. I think it has some of the most beautiful descriptions of the natural world that I've ever read. At this point, the text is like so, every page is so marked up because I've actually had this copy since university and I've just written so much about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I even have a tattoo of like one of the descriptions of summer and spring from the poem on my arm.
Wait, what does it say?
It says, blossoms swell and bloom in dense, reckless array, and rich notes unpausing are heard throughout the wood.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
I know. Yeah, the language in that book is just so, it's like, and it's a medieval poem, but anyone could read it and love it. You know, it's really simple. The 17th book I brought, the fourth book I brought is called Briar by Robert Coover. It's a thoughtful retelling of the Sleeping Beauty myth from multiple entities' perspectives. We get the perspective of the Sleeping Beauty herself as she's in dreams. We get the perspective of the wicked fairy or witch who's like trapped her in sleep forever. And then we get the perspective of the prince who's fighting through the thicket of brambles to save her and wake her with a kiss, but he never seems to get through the thicket of brambles, and the palace that she's trapped in is increasingly far away. It's not a happy book, I will say. It's just really beautiful writing, and as someone who thinks the Sleeping Beauty myth is really interesting and meaningful, this book really stood out to me when I first read it. And I've taught it to a lot of students since then because it's also really short. Book number 5 is The Vorrh by Brian Catling. Brian Catling is a really accomplished poet, but he wasn't really ever a novelist until he wrote this book. To me, it's like one of the great classic works of modern fantasy or speculative fiction. I've never read anything like it in my life, and I read speculative fiction like constantly. So the book just surprised me when it came out. I first read it when I was a visiting student at Oxford in 2016, and it totally changed the way that I thought about what a fantasy writer or what a sci-fi writer could accomplish with like old fairy tales and myths and archetypes. He just reinvented the wheel in a way that somehow feels ancient and grounded in tradition. Yeah, this is one of the best books I think I've ever read, and I read it again and again. It never gets old. The final book in my favorite books list is Lifelode by Jo Walton. It's a fantasy book by one of the best authors in fantasy ever. This book has a great plot. It's like a total page turner, and yet the pace of it is pretty slow and contemplative. My favorite thing about the book is the descriptions of cooking and food and actually like housekeeping. It's written from the perspective of a housekeeper, cook, and mother, and the attention that Jo Walton devotes to descriptions of meals and acts of service in the house. Other than this book, I've never read a book where the kind of joys of domestic labor, along with its difficulties, are described in such vivid detail. And you know, these days, a lot of us do a lot of cooking and cleaning and, you know, washing dishes, and for the main character in this book, all of those acts are like acts of service and love, and that's how she experiences them. And I think the care of that and the respect for work that it instilled in me has been really important in my life as a writer and person.